Board games. Board games. Board games. Board games, that's what we're talking about. Board games, I'm gonna not shout. Board games, and the lyrics are not very good. And I probably should think of some better lyrics. Hello, everyone, and I am Bez, and it's going to be the Bezzy Breakfast board game Blether, as I've talked about. And today it's all about KAWAII, which is a game by Helvetic. Just noticed the box is kind of on wrong. And spoilers, I really enjoy this game. But should you buy it? You know, that's for everyone else to decide. I mean, there's no game that everyone should buy. That's completely decision up to you. But I'm going to ramble about it for a while, and hopefully we'll have a bit of a ponder, decide why I like it, why there are some people that I've seen that don't like it at all and that have refused to play it again with me. True story. But before we do that, I'm going to talk about a brilliant thing, talk about some games I played recently, as in the past day, and talk about some happy news. And yeah, if you've got any questions relating to KAWAII or board games, feel free to pop them in the chat. Because it's going to be focusing on KAWAII. I might not guarantee to get to them today, but I will tomorrow probably. Anyway, so a brilliant thing. Let's talk about brilliant things. I want to talk about glasses. I mean, not spectacles, but I mean actual vessels for putting liquid into. And by the way, this morning, I'm drinking water with a bit of effervescent vitamin C in it. And if you're drinking, or let me know what you're up to in the comments, where you are, or something that you've enjoyed recently. But let's go back to talking about glasses, because glasses are brilliant. I mean, without glasses, how would we get the liquid into our mouths? I mean, yeah, sure, you can have cups. I mean, they don't have to be see-through. I mean, the fact that it's made of glass is basically what makes it into a glass. This is a glass. I should have taken this to the kitchen and washed it. That's my guilty secret. I have, 3 glasses on this table. I'm slightly ashamed of it. But glasses are still brilliant, and, you know, cups are actually just as good. But glasses give you the satisfaction of saying, hey, that's got some colour to it. And I know some people might see this and think, oh, that looks a bit like something like we or something. But being able to see the colours of your drinks, that's what, you know, when you've got a cocktail or a mocktail or whatever, where you can get the rainbow effect, that's what I'm talking about. So that's why thank you very much to glasses for existing. And thank you, Alan. Thank you, Michelle, for saying hello. Yeah, KAWAII does look super cute. I'm going to show you a bit more of that first. But I'd like to talk to you about games that I've played. So yesterday I had a bit of a game day with people in the house. That was so much fun. I think we started off with a game that I invented using playing cards, where you put them into like little 5x5 grid. And yeah, we played it once. It probably wasn't for, you know, target audience, but they were like, okay, that's not too bad. Let's play again. And then we played again, and they suggested a couple of rules changes, which I quite like with people around here. That sort of like, yeah, let's try something. And we played that, and we then played KAWAII. KAWAII was the only game of the evening that we only played once, and that is, you know, was very surprising to me. One of the 2 housemates that I was kind of playing with said, you know, it's just too much tension and too much frustration. I'll get into that a bit later. I'm going to really analyse that. And then we played Just One. It's a brilliant game. Even if you've got 3 people, it's still a lot of fun. Three people, I would say, is probably easier with four. So just one. They've got a really nice example. I love it when games do this. On the back of the box, they say, "Hey, 1, 2, 3. This is how you play." I mean, they've done a similar thing for Yogi. Like 1, draw a card. 2, read the instruction and do what it says. 3, if you stop doing something, you lose. Here, it's 1, write a thing. 2, compare, and then it clearly shows you the similar answers have been crossed out. 3, guess, and then only 2 are left. And with that visual explanation, it really shows you what's going on in the game. You've got words to guess, everyone else writes a word, any duplicates are crossed out, and so then the guesser has to guess using limited clues. Brilliant idea. That was designed by Ludovic Rudi and Bruno Sotter, and it's from Repos Production. I believe it won the Spiel des Jahres, so it's not on this box. I think I might have bought this before. It played this with a lot of people, and some people asked me to also do a full ramble about that, so I'm going to do that in a couple of days. And then we also played Mini Muckle, which was fun. And what I noticed was that everyone managed to get 3 or 4 more points second time we played. We played it once. I was like, okay, now I know the rules. We'll play again. And at the end, I was like, well, did you enjoy that? And people were like, yeah, we enjoyed it. Let's play again. Oh, no, for end of first game, it was let's play again. End of second game, it was like, wow, that was good, but it was like a bit of a head burner. And so I think it's just, I love kind of the fact that the housemates are in the right mood, willing to kind of analyze that. And apparently, Alan Oughton is drinking matcha tea in a clay bowl. Wow, that sounds quite fancy. Yeah, let's just ponder that. And so that was the games that I played. What else have I been up to? Oh, I went to the post office yesterday. I did the big lots of packaging. I had like 5 things. Went to the post office. Guess how long it took in the post office. If you've read my Twitter, then you already know the answer. But otherwise, just make a guess in the comments. How long was I in the post office for? Anyway, like when I say in the post office, I mean, how long was I queuing for the post office? So the queue, when I arrived, there were 22 people in front of me. By the time it was half gone, like there were 11 people in front of me and now like 16 people behind me. And yeah, I posted almost everything. Like one of the packages was over 2 kilos. It was going to Germany. So I was like, yeah, that's the way that Royal Mail works. If anything's above 2 kilos, tip, you need to split it into multiple packages of 2 kilos each. But anyway, post office took very long. Guess how long it took me? Because it took me so long, I did do a little bit of recording and editing for a show that's going to go on tonight. Anyway, there's honestly that thing in the post office. Okay, Alan Oughton says 2 hours, 12 minutes and 47 seconds. That's very specific. And Dave Weatherall is surprisingly close with 70 minutes. It was, in fact, 75 minutes. So you are awarded 1 point, 1 meaningless point. Congratulations, Dave, for your first meaningless point. I mean, all your other points, I'm sure, were very meaningful, but this is the Bezzy meaningless point, which means absolutely nothing. And I'm not even going to keep track of it. But you can if you want, because, you know, maybe that's what gives it meaning. Maybe, I mean, I guess that's kind of a philosophical question of when we're playing board games, like what gives it meaning? Because everyone just comes into the magic circle and says, okay, we are going to agree to play this game to win. And we are going to, play to win. And because we're doing that, now it gives the rules of the game meaning. Like in golf, why do you not just pick up the ball and walk over and drop it in the hole? Because you've decided that these are the rules. And maybe sometimes making rules for yourself, making a routine, that can be reaching broader. That can be something that, in a sense, gives life meaning. I mean, I know that some people feel like they are actually preferring the work days because nowadays, okay, they're still working from home, but there's something to do. There's little bits of routine. And sometimes when you're playing a game, that's something like, okay, I've decided that within this context, I'm just trying to get the most points. So that is a meaningful activity. And it's us as the participants that ascribe the meaning to something. Michelle asks, how many points does Dave need to win? You were... I mean, I don't think this is an ortho game, so there is no winner, there's no loser with the meaningless points. It's just meaningless points. Anyway, so that is what I've been up to recently. And I want to give a big shout out. I got this one book recently, and this came through the post. I was very excited. I had a bit of a rough morning, to be honest. And I got this from Dr. James Chapman. It's 10 quid. I paid the extra money for like a lovely illustration that they've done that I'm not going to show you right now, but it's all about sayings. For example, if you don't enter the tiger's cave, you will not catch its cub. What does that mean? The dog that doesn't walk doesn't find a bone. And these are the things that you can, proverbs from around the world that you read about, and then you think, that's giving me a little bit of an insight into the different cultures around the world, which is quite nice. And that was a lovely, lovely thing. Okay, so I'm going to tilt this down. You can see I've put a cardboard box, the red thing for simplicity. So this is the game that I'm going to be talking about for the next 40, 50 minutes. It's called KAWAII. And I am biased because I know the publisher. I met them at Cannes Festival International de Jeux 2019, I believe. And then I saw them at Essen, and I swapped, I think, one or both of these two games for a whole bunch of their little games. And also, when I saw them at Cannes 2020, I did pitch some games to them, and they gave me a bunch of free games just because we're friendly with each other, and I'm probably going to pitch more games to them, and they took 2 of my games for consideration. So I do want to address the fact that I am biased about this company. Given that fact, I am going to try to stay objective. So, firstly, I just want to address the packaging. I really like, this is what made me think, yeah, my packaging needs to improve. You've got the name here, the name, like if you want to stand it up here, the name if you want to lie it down here. I mean, and then all the bump that no one wants to read on the bottom, that made me think, wow, that's so much better than Wibble++, where it's kind of the same way around, and also it's a bit hard to read, frankly. But I'm going to try to, this is like my role model for like, look at that, that's a cute little picture. On the back, you can see it's in many different languages: English, French, German, Netherlands, Italian, Spanish. It's for 6 up to 99. Frankly, I don't like it when they do this. I wish it was just 6+, because what does that even mean? You can play it when you're 100. Of course you can. 3 to 5, that's absolutely true. I have played it with 3 players. I've played it with 4 players. I've played it with 5 players. Played it a good number of times each time. 15 minutes. Yeah, that's probably about true. And 65 cards. And sure, I'm actually surprised that it doesn't mention that not only do you get 65 cards, but, so view, here's some cards, here's some more cards, but also you get these, I can't remember how I got it, but I think these were just loose when I opened it, but you get these little red hearts, which might be a bit hard to see in the thing. Maybe you can see these red hearts that don't, I'll put some of them in the box. Okay, you can maybe see them. So these are little cute markers. They are for the currency. You get the rules. The rules are like English on one side, French on the other, and they've got little cute ice creams. They've got Netherlands and that, and German, and what's this, Italian. And so you can see the rules are quite simple. This is a fact with all the little box Helvetic games that are all, and then you get this little thing of, oh, that's all the other games that they have. And I've played all of them, and my personal opinion. Oh, I don't. I don't want to rain on people's parade. I can see why people like Bandido. I find it's a bit too simple and lucky. Forest, I forget how that one goes. Hippo, I really liked. I was really impressed by. Didn't like, loved, quite liked, really like. This is actually KAWAII is my favourite of all of their games. I'm just going to say this out there. Out of all the Helvetic little box games, this is my favourite. Oh, and I think it's really interesting when you look at the inside of the box. So this is something that you never see until you actually open it. So it just says KAWAII and it reinforces their brand. And so let's talk a little bit about, I'll put that there so we can, the cards. So you have a bunch of cards with green backs, which is mechanically important. You have 5 cards with dark purple backs and 5 cards with pink backs. The game ultimately, just to give a very quick overview, I don't want this to just be a rules explanation, but is about people flipping over cards from a personal stack of these into a personal market, but their personal market can be bought by anyone. Everyone starts with 2 hearts, and this is the clever bit. When you buy something, when you buy everything from someone's market, so you're going to pay them a heart, and you get every card from their market, and then you get to take it into your score pile. If you want to buy from your own market, what you've got to do is you don't give it to yourself. That would be stupid. It goes out the game. Now, if the way you get points is these hidden objective cards, you get 1 of each. So in this situation, you'd get 1 point for every chocolate thing and 1 point for every Twindo thing. There is additional rules with cherries and out of service shops. Cherries are just worth a point to everyone, and the closed shops like that, if you get 1 of them, it's -1. If you get all 3, that's like shooting the moon, something that you might be familiar with from trick-taking games. That gives you +3 points. So that's another little wrinkle in there, something else that you can go for. Now, fundamentally, the core of the game is about the parts that I described, of flipping over a card. Now, next turn, you flip over a new card, and each time, unless you get a closed shop card, your marketplace is going to become more and more valuable. And what this means is that there's a real tension in there, because so in theory, these are worth 1 point at the end of the game if you have it. So let's say you were after orange. At this point, if you were after orange and this kind of ice cream, then this hand would be worth 1, 2, 3, -1 is 2. So in theory, it's absolutely worth paying this. But at the same time, clearly it's not, because not only are these worth a point, but they're also your purchasing power. And that's, to me, the really interesting thing, the closed economy, the fact that it's such a tight thing, that it's like, okay, you've got loads of games where you're buying things, but in those games, there's some way to earn money other than people buying it off you. Here, it's just when you buy it off someone else, you pay them something that allows, let's say I pay a heart, I give my love to Anne, and that means that Anne is allowed to have 3 hearts, and Anne can give their love to whoever to buy more stuff a bit more freely, because now they've got 3, it doesn't matter so much. But there's a massive scarcity to these. You will never get more hearts in the game. There will never be more love. I mean, that's kind of quite a sad thing now I think about it. There will never be more love. I mean, I really don't think this game is meant to make us think of philosophical issues. But let's talk about the fact that these are little love hearts. I mean, the fact that you're spreading your love around, and if 2 people pass their love back and forth, they will basically win. Because if 2 people pass their love back and forth and they kind of, let's say they had an agreement, this would be completely against the spirits of the game. But okay, whenever you've got something that's worth even a point to me, I'm going to give you my heart. Whenever I've got something that's worth a point to you, you give me your heart. And that way you won't run out of hearts because you'll keep passing it back and forth. But at the same time, you will both beat everyone else. Now, this is not something that even wants to you want to do, because ultimately in every game, like every game, you don't want to just be, okay, I'm second, I'm in the top two. You want to be the winner. I mean, if you're playing a free player game, I mean, second is as good as second last. I mean, literally, it is second last. I mean, and for you know what I mean, you want to try to win. That's what everyone is kind of doing. So with this love, with the love that you're passing around, you share it. And if you give your love to someone else, that is something that you can never use. So if people aren't giving you love, you'll never have love to give to anyone else. You'll never be able to buy your ice creams. And it's really sad. Just to talk about the graphics, because that's always an easy thing to talk about when so you have these ice creams with weird names. I mean, Twindo, I can sort of understand that. Let me move it down. You've got this, the lolly. Yeah, that makes sense. The softy. This way. The speedy. And of course, the hokey. I mean, has anyone heard of this word, hokey? Because I can't find anyone who knows this word, but I mean, I'm sure it exists. I'm sure they didn't just bring it out of nowhere. And then these are the ice cream flavors, which are really interesting. So you've got the raspberry, which I don't know if you can see properly. It's got a little nice texture, so it's not just about the colors. You've got the honey, which honey ice cream, that looks nice. You've got strawberry. Yeah, I'm fairly sure that's strawberry, although when it kind of could be melon is, I'm fairly sure it's strawberry. You've got mint. Yeah, mint ice cream, that makes a lot of sense. And finally, chocolate. And all the graphics, they are basic, apart from the closed shop and the cherries, it's all modular designs. And if you are familiar with vectors or Flash, you can imagine, like, it's basically one picture on top of the other texture. And so now you've basically seen every card. That's what all of them look like. So the graphics are cute, but I don't need to talk about the graphics. You're actually seeing them. You don't have to. Do you like these graphics? If so, then great. You like these graphics. If you don't like these graphics, you don't like the graphics. I mean, why do reviewers talk about graphics? It's kind of a weird thing to me in some ways. I mean, seriously, is it providing any service if I have a video and I'm literally showing you these graphics? Do I need to talk about the fact that, okay, look, there's it's a tessellating pattern, and look at those squares. Oh, look, everything is in a slightly different size of repetition. So like the mint and the chocolates have slightly different sizes. You can see the mint leaves there if you look closely. And I guess I could say, oh yes, the variance in colors is actually really good for, it feels like it's good for colorblind people. There's a good variance in brightness. Bright. These ones are a bit similar, but that's basically as similar as it can get. I've not put it through all the colorblind filters, but I feel like they've done a good job. If you can't tell the difference between these colors, in theory, you've got the texture, but the texture is kind of in the background enough and vague enough that you can't really see it too easily. So, yeah, they've done a good job, but in theory, not the absolute perfect job. Oh, just noticed that all the little lollies have little black splotches. I thought at first that was something on the card, but no, they've just got little black things. I've never noticed that before. But they are so cute. Look at those eyes. And this is basically a recolored version of that. If you sort of, wait, yeah, now they're about the same size with different size. So let's get back to the whole. There is a delicious tension in this game that I absolutely love. That when people are putting more and more cards out, that is the crux of the game. The whole game is this kind of chicken, this game of chicken. I mean, I want those things, you want those things, but actually it's not it's that kind of the opposite of the game of chicken. It's more like a push your luck. It's like a game of inverse chicken, because chicken, the person who swerves last in the classical game of two cards coming to each other and then swerve and um to show your macho pride or whatever, which is really messed up. But in that classic game, the person who swerves last is the winner. In this game, it's the person who blinks first who's the winner, but you want to blink as late as possible. So I want to spend my heart at the last possible moment, because when I spend my heart, I get all the cards. But if I do it a moment too late, then someone else will get it. Now, this game does have a speed element. Quite often, the speed element doesn't even come into it, because people will be throwing down a card and I will choose to put down a heart. But it's not a game where you go around and say, hey, do you want to join in? It's literally just the first person to slam down their heart on top of the pile of cards. And so, yeah, it does mean that it's got this weird sort of it's not really a speed game, but you have to make that speed decisions, and ultimately that's what the game is pushing for. It's that entire, I want to grab all these cards before you do. Now, grabbing cards isn't just good for you, because if you've got if you want the Hokey, I think it was called, and Mint, and you've got these two cards, but there's also a whole bunch of cards that you don't want. Let's say these are the 4 cards in someone's display. If I grab the Hokey and Mint, yes, I grab 3 points because of these ones, but I'm also potentially denying someone else points, because someone else might want the chocolate, someone else might want the strawberry, someone else might want the softie. And so, especially in a low player counts game, it's like, yeah, boom, I'm going to get there before you, and I'm going to deny you these things. Now, let's talk about why one person in the house basically refused to play it again. It was because of that, because there's a tension, and it's about guessing. When are your opponents going to go for it? Guessing isn't quite the right word. Like, is One Night Ultimate Werewolf a guessing game? Is Classic Werewolf a guessing game? Is Ultimate Werewolf a guessing game? Some people would say yes, because some people say there just aren't enough clues. Is Rock, Paper, Scissors a guessing game? I mean, almost certainly everyone would say yes to that last one. But is this a guessing game? I'm going to say no, because there's enough information that, yes, other people think other people's desires are hidden, so it doesn't become a clear game of mathematically working out, okay, how much exactly do you want and how much exactly is it worth to me? So who's exactly in the lead? So I'm going to concentrate about them, and then everything could be calculable, and that would be not very much fun. There's a little bit of mystery there, which makes it very nice. And with that aspect, if I see a group of like 10 cards, maybe it's worth going for me, even if it's only worth 1 point. Because if I slam down that 1 point, I give up 1 point, I take 1 point, and I'm down on my purchasing power. But if I had 2 purchasing power, or even better, if I had 3, I don't know, like, it might not be worth giving up your latest one. But maybe it's worth me taking all those cards just to deny the points to my opponents. Like, going, ha, 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 I'm being mean to you. And it is intensely competitive and vindictive and aggressive, even though there is ostensibly no direct competition. It's never about, I'm taking something that was yours, because it was never yours to begin with. Maybe you wanted it, but hey, if you wanted it, you should have put your hearts on it. If you wanted, then you should have put a heart on it. If you wanted, then you should have put a heart on it. Yeah, and it's like getting in people's way and having that mirth. And sometimes you are going to be messed about, because sometimes you'll want to put a heart on something, but someone else will get there like a fraction of a second before you. And you'll be like, oh man. And then sometimes things will go perfectly, and sometimes things won't go very well. And there is a lot of variance to this game. It's a high variance game. It depends on your opponents, because if love is flowing freely, then it's probably good for you to make your love kind of go around as well. And if people are being a bit stingy with your love, you should probably be a bit reticent as well. it comes down to how many hearts do you have. Like I say, everyone starts with 2, and this is the perfect number, because let's talk about that. That means 1, okay, I've spent that, okay, now I've only got 1, and then 3, oh, like, I don't know how to say this in good words, but you get what I'm trying to say. With 3, you wouldn't have that tension of, oh, I've given away 1, now I've given away 2, now this is my last one. It's straight. And 1, if you only had 1, everyone would be really super stingy with your love. But with 2, that means that your first one, you can give away a bit more freely because it's kind of your spare love. It's kind of, I don't know how I would describe that, like mistress or something. But anyway, it's like your spare hearts, and but every heart's as valuable as each other, and you're willing to give it because you still have this other heart, and you might even get another heart before, because the heart is going around in this closed economy. It's not like it's going out of the game or coming in. Generally, you are going to be buying stuff from other people. I mean, mathematically, even at the minimum player count, 3 people, if you played randomly, there's still 67% chance that it would be one of your opponents, and only 33% chance that it's going to be you, which means that, you know, obviously with a 5-player game, the maximum, there's 80% chance you'd want one of the things from your opponents, and 20% chance that you want the stuff that's in front of you. So it's going to tend towards love staying in the system. It's going to tend towards other people wanting your stuff. It's going to tend towards you giving something away, then someone giving you something, and then now you feel a bit less. Even if you're one of those people who hoard stuff and never gives away your last thing, you're still going to feel okay about giving stuff away. And you might have crazy situations. You might have situations wherein with 3 players, 2 of them spend their love quite freely, and then they buy stuff from the 3rd player, but then suddenly the 3rd player has all 6 hearts, and they've let themselves get into this situation where someone controls all the economy, and it's like, haha, you have no love to give. And then you can go for the plus 3 points, and that's a really interesting wrinkle. Let's talk about the extra aspects of this game, because really there is not much to this game. And yeah, Alan Alton is that love is actually cheap. You can buy 20 wooden hearts. I assume they look very similar to this one. And yeah, I think this game only comes with 15 for 184. So yeah, if you want to make your... Yeah, but I mean, that's not giving you the joy of the game, is it? And Steve is saying that they like the sound of it, by the sounds of things. Again, if you have any questions to do with this game, then please do give me a shout in the comments. But just questions to do vaguely with this game, KAWAII. So as I was saying, the basics of this game is I want these 2 aspects. I want a chocolate window. That is my deal. I want anything with chocolate and anything that is a twindle. And that is the key game. That's everything I've described so far. Getting these cards and denying them to your opponents. I really want to talk about these wrinkles. So firstly, the shoot the moon aspect. This kind of gives it an alternative strategy, because it is a simple game. This is not much of an extra rule. It's, okay, these are -1 each, but if you get all 3 of them, it's positive 3. Now, this means that at a certain point, you might have 1 of them, and you might notice that 2 of them are on the board. Well, if you see 2 of them on the board, you might want to put both your hearts to grab 2 of them simultaneously like that. Boom, boom, I grab all 3 of them, positive 3 points. And also, what that then means is that potentially you might be able to grab a better value stuff along with this, because this is now going to be an asymmetry of desires. So other people do not want this because it's clearly -1, whilst you do. And the number 3 is like really nice because it's easy enough to get to. 3 is like the minimum that has some challenge. It's like, okay, once one person's on 2, you've got to be really careful. Or if one person's on 1 and both of them are out on the table, at that point, someone else might be like, I'm taking that just to deny you this stuff. And that is... Oops, I need to plug in my laptop. That is such a wondrous thing, getting that asymmetry of desires. Conversely, the cherries are about homogenizing these desires where everyone can see, okay, these cherries are valuable. And even if you're only playing with 3 players where 40% of the stuff is, well, 40% of the traits are not valuable to anyone. So there's going to be actually a lot fewer cards that are not valuable to anyone, because remember, there's always 2 possible ways to make it score. But these cherries are a way to say, hey, if I put down a cherry, suddenly there might be a mad rush for it. Because if everyone was on defense, now 1 point in this game, 1 point can be really meaningful. And I think that so that's my thing. Okay, so Dave Wedderall, let me just pop that up. Hadn't come across KAWAII before. Interestingly, rock pool has some very similar mechanics with shouting out to empty the rock pool of cards. Sometimes you might choose to shout to empty the pool or deny your opponents rather than help yourself. A key difference is that with rock pool, you have a finite number of times to empty the pool, unlike sharing the love. And yeah, I think that's a key thing that I really admire. I think that for me, this was the genius thing about KAWAII. I got it at Essen 2019, not expecting much of it. I got it. I read the rules to the Helvetic games in the car while I was driving down with Alan and Charlie Paul. Hi, Alan and Charlie, if you're watching, from Surprise Terror Games, lovely people. And then we were on the ferry. And the first time I played this game, truthfully, was at the very end of October, like the Monday after Essen finished, whenever that was, on the ferry, going back to Dover, and we played KAWAII. I think we played it multiple times. We also played Winston, but we all agreed that this sharing of love was such a genius thing, and I would love to see it in a more complex game where this economy, there is no way to earn more. There is no way to just you can get rid of it, but when you're buying stuff, it's kind of going around and sharing the love. That is such a genius mechanism, and it works so well, and it enables the whole basically push your luck chicken thing of when do you shout, when do you slam a heart down, because I am giving up my heart, but also you are getting one. And also what it does then is, because of this economy that's flowing around, it makes the games massively variable. So if you're playing a game, I've talked about this a few minutes ago, but I've played this with Alan and Charlie. I played it with housemates. I played it with people, friends who don't live in the house. Like I've played it with people who are really incredibly casual gamers. This is like all over the past year or so. I've just had a lot of fun with this game. And when you're bringing it out and people are like, oh yeah, I'm going to share the love easily and let it flow, then, because if you get more love coming to you, you should kind of say, okay, if I wait until something's worth 4 points, let's say you've got it in your mind that you're going to wait until something's worth 4 points, then what that means is that maybe in a certain group, everyone's just getting it slightly earlier than you. So you're ending up with just the points of your hearts and you never get anything and you'll probably lose. Conversely, if in a game where everyone's waiting for it to be 6, 7, 8 points, then you'll probably get rid of your hearts and you'll probably lose. So you've got to be adaptable and you've got to play to the people. And that is another thing that I love about KAWAII. That, yes, there can be groupthink, that everyone gets into a certain state, but then if you take this game and play it with a totally different group of people, it will be totally different. And that is one aspect that I love about games. Alan asks, does everyone get a fixed number? No, it's 2. It is a fixed number. It's 2 hearts to start. Or does it depend on the game? Can you give more hearts to new players and less hearts to experts, or am I complicating things? Everyone gets 2 hearts. Yes, 2 hearts is the number. The number is not 3. You shall not count 1 except to proceed to 2. The number is 2. Okay, so should you house rule it? Should you give 3 hearts to a more advanced player or less advanced player? I wouldn't bother with that. And the difference between 2 and 1 seems so massive. Like, honestly, there is so much variability and luck and yeah, there's a good amount of, because there's so much player chaos. That's what it all comes down to. The chaos of the shuffle and the chaos of what are other people going to do. That is ultimately the whole thing of this game. If I'm flipping out cards, when is someone else going to go for that? Now, if other people react differently, if the whole group changes from the first time we play to the second time we play, because, okay, now they understand the rules, now they're going to play differently, then I'm, even as a more advanced gamer, as someone who's played it a whole bunch more times, this is not a game where I feel confident of winning. I feel like I have more of a chance of winning. And yeah, I don't feel like it's a game where you can really pick on people. I feel like it's a game where you could, in theory, come up with some sort of alliance, like, okay, we'll pass our love back and forth, but we're not going to give our love to other people. I mean, then, but you'd still want one of those people would want to kind of give their love to someone else, and maybe it would be about that tension of when they did that to betray each other. And anyway, that's not what the game's about. That would, but the game is not, but you can have these sorts of unwritten agreements. But no, two is the perfect number, because again, you get rid of one and straight away you're on your last one. That's massive tension. That's massive. That's the maximum amount of tension, whilst allowing you to kind of feel like you've got, okay, a bit of liberty to share it around. Now, I feel like I've run out of things to say about this game, which is an amazing surprise. The hearts are nice. You can tell that I've run out of things to say when I start talking about cardstock. And the cardstock is all right. I can sort of look through the back of the card when I see it, so it's not the best cardstock. You can, if I shine a light behind it, hold on a second, you are going to see KAWAII, but that doesn't really matter for this kind of game. It's kind of like in a bind in that aspect. Let me get the lamp up. So if I this is the light, and if there was a light behind it, no, you can sort of see KAWAII. Anyway, so my point is that the cards are nice. They're not the perfect cards, but they're good enough for what they are. They're standard cards. I would say about 270. That's what they feel like. They feel like decent cards. They're going to last. There's been a little bit of scratching on this card. These are really cute components. I like the box. The cards, we talked about cards of different ratios last time. These cards are interesting because if you look, there's a little bit of space to the side here and a little bit on top, and that's where you have the hearts that come with the game, and it feels like it's all packaged really perfectly, and it works really well for this shape of box. So, Michelle, actually, I'll do Alan's question first. So, do you like the taller, thinner shape of the cards? Yeah, I mean, I would say that with this game, there's only two pieces of information upon these cards. So, functionally, you've got the background and you've got the foreground character. And yeah, I love the fact that they've all got little different sorts of expressions. I mean, let's go back to the things. The twin bow is kind of cheeky. The hokey is just kind of smiley, and then the speedy with the moustache, the softy that's kissing you or offering kisses, and the lolly that's just super cute. And so, yeah, you've only got two pieces of information per card, or one piece of information on your kind of hidden scoring cards. And so what that means is that if you had a big card, let's show the mind, I mean, you don't need that little extra bit of space. It does mean that now, because this is a game where you can have a lot of cards on the table, and so you can put them slightly closer together. They don't use quite as much space, and that's actually really functional for this game. And yeah, I like this. It's kind of feels appropriate. It feels cute. It's still functional. You never need to hold it in your hand. You're just flipping them over. It's a very nice shape. And yeah, I would say it's not taller. It's actually just thinner. If you look at the back, the mind cards by comparison covers it exactly. I mean, I should probably, yeah, why not compare it to Wibble Plus Plus? I mean, so we've got Swibble Plus Plus, which is, or DL deck, which is marginally thicker than this one. There's slight difference, and this is diminished by quite a lot. So do scores tend to get closer as you play more with a group because you get better at predicting when other people will stop pushing their luck? What I have found is that if there's someone who's done really badly, then in their first game, they are going to pick it up by the second game. So if you've got, yeah, to an extent, scores do get closer together, but you're always going to have the wild swings because you will get a situation where people start saying, okay, I'm going to go for the shops, and then they try to get the shops, but in the end, they're left with 2 out of the 3. And that's a massive disadvantage, especially if you were taking those shops just because you thought you were going to push the moon. And interestingly, 3, if you look at a number like Hearts or Black Mamba, the one that's kind of like, but there's lots of trick-taking games where where you shoot for the moon. Now, normally shooting for the moon involves getting 13 points or losing 13 points. So it's almost like you're trying to get such an obscene number or lose such an obscene amount of points that if you shoot for the moon and you don't manage it, that's going to change your entire game plan going forwards. Now, shooting for the moon here, even, it is quite forgiving because, yeah, again, with only 3 things, that's -2. And -2, I would say, is enough to take you from first place to second or maybe third. But it's, yeah, and the difference between -2 and +3, that's massive. That's like a 5-point swing, but it's still a lot more forgiving than the difference between a hypothetical -12 and +13 if you would compare it to something like that in a trick-taking game. Or, you get what I'm saying? And there are sometimes, but still, that 5-point swing is enough that sometimes I will get to the end and I'll be like, oh, I tried to go for it. Oh, they got in the way. Oh, damn you. And sometimes you just can't sense the taste of the group because it's not just about getting better at predicting people, because people don't keep doing the same thing and then you get better at predicting them. What actually happens is that people try to get better at predicting people and then so now you're trying to get better at predicting people who are getting better at predicting people. So the whole group dynamic is going to keep evolving. And so you get to a situation where at the start, yes, you're just making guesses, or maybe some people are good at sort of analyzing this stuff, but some people might be just making guesses. But if you're just trying to learn based off what was happening in the first 3 games, if you're playing a 4th game, then you might be taking the average of that and going based on old data, whereas everyone is now kind of about to keep current, and you need to react on the fly. This is a game where if you've got, if you get given a heart, if you've now got 3 hearts instead of your starting 2, you now should know, okay, I've got to give this away a bit more freely. If you see other people taking things fairly quickly and it's going back and forth, you need to think, okay, I need to get in on this action. If you are thinking, oh, you need to be able to see the dynamic of each individual game, not just the whole overall thing. And to an extent, that's how it is with One Night Ultimate Werewolf, like another game, which is fairly short. It's 10 minutes, and that's another game that I tend to very rarely play only once in a row. Because this game, yes, it is about predicting people, but it's also a little bit about maths and card counting. Now, I guess, yeah, I hope that kind of explains the question, Michelle, if I've not answered that. To summarize, yeah, they don't just work. A really bad player will get better. Scores will tend to be about 5 apart, I would say. It's depending on how many people you are playing with. Sometimes they'll get closer. But I want to talk about card counting. Now, I personally do not know how many of each given thing there is, but I do know that there's an equal distribution. So about 20% of the deck is each color, and 20% of the deck is each shape. So that gives me a starting probability. I mean, yes, I think you've got 3 of these and 2 cherries. I genuinely can't remember how many cherries there are. But this aspect of card counting, this aspect of, am I able to look and think what other people might be wanting to do? Is that useful in this game? And I would say no. By the way, it looks like there's actually 2 cherries. And I'm going to say I like the fact that in this game there's only 2 cherries in the entire deck. Oh, there was another one. I can't find it here. And the thing about this game doesn't shove a lot of mechanisms in your face. I mean, I wasn't trying to teach you the rules, but I guess that you all understand the rules and you all understand how it feels. And hopefully you all understand whether it's a game that you and your family or whatever might enjoy. I mean, let's talk about, I've not talked about the variance in player counts. I mean, that's probably a thing that I should do. Card counting, just to quickly summarize, probably not that useful. I mean, you can get a sense of it, but it's not worth actually keeping track. But if that's something that you can do easily, then sure, go for it. But I want to first point out, yes, it's not like, oh, let's put in 4 of them. Oh, let's put in like 3 additional rules. It's just 2 additional rules. This shooting the moon aspect, these cherries. And Dave, great to see you. Thanks for staying and enjoy your meeting. Have a good day. It's always good for everyone to just stay as long as they want. And yeah, it's lovely to always see you. And thank you, Michelle, for the appreciation. Anyway, so I wanted to get firstly into the fact that I feel like this game does so much with so few rules. It's like, boom, here's your identity. 1 point for each of these. 1 point for each of these. Gather the cards. How do you gather the cards? Well, we flip cards one at a time. You pay them this whenever you want. That person gets their heart, and you get all the cards in front of them, just in their market. What do these mean? These are 1 point regardless. These are -1 or +3 if you get all 3. That's the entire rules. And I can teach this game in 30 seconds, or if I need to go slowly for people to understand it, I can teach it as we go along. You can't just say, okay, well, we're going to flip over cards, and now we start. If anyone wants this card, if it's probably not worth it, because remember, these are 1 point, then it's, yeah, good. What are you bumping there, Alan? I'm slightly confused. Was there a question that I missed? But so yeah, this game does so much with so little. Now let me finally talk about the difference in player counts. Oh my goodness, it's almost 7 minutes too. So 3 players, it's going to vary a lot more with people, and there is the potential of heart starvation. So you might be literally starved for, I was going to say love, but you're basically being starved for the love tokens. And you might be in a situation where you've spent your things and someone else only has 1 left, and then out of the 6 that were starting in the game, maybe someone has all 4 of them, each other person has only 1, and there's almost a Mexican standoff, because these 2 people have 1 each, and this person has 4 each, and that means that at the end of the game, they're going to just be able to wait, and be like, boom, I'm taking that in your face, or wait and basically guarantee the shooting the moon. But that type of strategy is not as valid in 4 or 5 players. The higher player count you go, the more love will be flowing around, so the more generous you want to be potentially with your own love. And interestingly, the fewer points you might have to be taking. So you might say, okay, and an interesting thing. Here's a really interesting thing about this game. Let's say you were the honey lolly. Let's say you really wanted these. Let's say that's worth 4 points to you. Do you take that? The answer is definitely not. Because no one else wants that. Why would anyone else take that? But then, as soon as another card comes up, that's where you might start thinking, and then you might be able to push your luck and take another one and then slam your heart down as soon as the fourth one goes up, no matter what it is. In that situation, it's kind of reminiscent of No Thanks, which I can't remember the other name for, where you're just saying, yeah, I actually want this, but I know that no one else wants it, so I'm just going to leave it up there so that I'm benefited even more. That's a really interesting thing. And that's a thing that you can do no matter how many players. And also, that sort of situation is more likely to come out with with the deck being divided into 5 and 5 different things of people. Alan asks, do you think the designers had a certain type of person in mind with this game? Age, perhaps? Clearly, they were not interested in centenarians. Yes, I agree. I mean, that's, yeah. Again, it does say 6 to 99. I have not played this game with any 6-year-olds, so I cannot personally comment as to the suitability for 6-year-olds. I could say, based on my hypothesis, based on knowing the kinds of games that my nieces could play when they were 6, this game would be a little bit on the complex side for them. I would say that they would be able to get it after a few goes. I would say that for them, I might take out the shops for the first few games, and then once my 6, if I were playing with a 6 and an 8-year-old, I would probably take out the shops and then just play with the ice creams and the cherries, and kind of, once they've understood all that, once we've played a couple of games, I'd say, hey, do you want to try with this new aspect? And there's a nice thing about modularity of games when there is a little wrinkle that you can completely take out for someone who's quite small. I think that this game, the best people to play this game are people who don't mind getting in each other's ways, don't mind sometimes being beaten to the punch. That you have to, I really wanted that, but you were a moment earlier than me. People who are able to deal with that frustration. If you're not able to deal with that frustration, then yeah, that's a potential problem. And if you're not able to understand rules, that's not a problem because the rules are quite simple. So I would say people who are maybe in the pub, who are able to have a little bit of smack talk, who are able to say, oh, I really wanted that, but you got it, and enjoy the fact that someone got it and enjoy that variance. This is a high variance, very chaotic game. That is it. I hope that I've given you an idea of what kind of game it is. I don't think I've made any disguising of the fact that I personally really enjoy it. I would have liked to play it multiple times last night, but the people I was playing with, especially because they're house people, I want to, don't want to push things too much. And we did play a bunch of other games. But for me, this is one of those games where you play it and then you play it again, and then the second time it is going to be different. If you live with 3 people and if everyone's okay with things being a little bit random and a little bit of high tension, then this is a game for you. And I think that's all the time that I've got. So thank you everyone for kind of following along. Thank you, Alan, for repasting your question. Thank you, Dave and Michelle, and for following along. It's been lovely having you with me, figuratively speaking. I mean, It's the whole we are kind of together even though we're not. And if you want to share anything that you've enjoyed recently, then yeah, go for it. And so for now, all that's left to say is bye bye, bye bye. This is the goodbye song. Do 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 bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Do do bye bye, bye bye. This is the goodbye song. Bye bye, bye bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye bye, bye bye. This is the end of the show. Bye bye, bye bye. And now it's time to go. Well, bye bye, everyone. And yeah, if it's not for you,